Adam Seslin, XPlay, G4TV.com, all that stuff. Thank you. This panel, I wanted to moderate because I've kind of been in love with Ratchet Clank since pretty much the first Ratchet Clank, and I think reviewed every single game except for maybe Deadlock because it came out at a different time of the year and I was busy. But so when I suddenly realized at the announcement of Gamescom that suddenly there's this co-op game and how awesome and obvious and all at the same time, like, I hadn't thought of that. That's great. And so now we are going to look at Ratchet Clank All for One. I want to introduce this panel of illustrious Insomniac folk. We have Chad Dezern, studio director for Insomniac North Carolina. Sean McCabe, he is the production director, also at North Carolina. TJ Fixman, he is the senior writer. He also worked on Crack in Time, which I will once again say publicly, I had just awesome writing in it, and I just played it and was laughing hard the second playthrough. And good friend James Stevenson, the senior community manager, and I think who's tied with me for the most panels at PAX, appearing at them.
It's good to be at the top with you this time.
Exactly, so it's good. But before we get into the game altogether, this is the first game announced out of the North Carolina studio, and obviously you guys have been situated in Burbank for quite some time, and I didn't know who wants to answer, why North Carolina?
Sure. Yeah, sure, I'll talk about that. I mean, really what it came down to was kind of simple. We just wanted to make more games as a studio. And at the same time, we didn't want to grow the team in Burbank past the size that it is right now, because we're kind of at a magic number. The team in Burbank is a size where everybody can kind of know what's going on with the game. Everybody can collaborate and share information, and that's really important for us in the way we do things. So, we started out with a core group of longtime Insomniacs, and then we made the move to the East Coast and added a lot of new people who are bringing, good new ideas to what we're doing.
Are you also finding that there's because obviously Epic Games is out in the Raleigh area, but you also have Duke University, you have UNC, you have some great schools. I mean, are you finding that you can draw from a pool of talent that maybe doesn't tend to travel all the way out to live on the West Coast?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, completely. Like you mentioned, they have Duke, Wake Forest is nearby, UNC, NC State. It's just the effect that those universities have on the community just means that there is a lot of local talent. Like I'd say, like half of the folks that we've got there were locals.
Is it different working in North Carolina than Burbank? Not so much because you're separated, but just you're in a different part of the country.
Well, it's definitely a different place to live. It's certainly not LA, but at the same time, it's not a backwater. I mean, it's got everything that you'd ever want, and it's definitely got a lot going for it as a place to live. And in terms of the way the studios work together, I mean, we're still in really close touch with everybody in Burbank. We have all kinds of solutions for getting people on the phone or teleconferencing whenever we need to ask a question or rely on somebody else's expertise. So that part of it has actually gone really smoothly. Like a lot of times I feel like we are actually still in the same office, even though we're across the country.
So when you guys went down there, were you already thinking that, okay, we're going to do All for One, we're going to do that 4-player co-op Ratchet game, or did you kind of get there going, what do we do? Oh, let's do a 4-player co-op Ratchet game.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, actually, the co-op Ratchet title is something that we've been talking about for a long time. So, it's first a game that we've wanted to make. It seems natural, just as a kernel of something to let Ratchet and Clank play together. And also it's something that our fans have been asking for a long time. So it was definitely on our minds, right?
I mean, it goes back to like this thing that we used to say, and we used to joke about it. It is Ratchet and Clank. Like, why? It would be so cool to play these characters together. And really, like, I mean, I remember talking as far back as during Ratchet Future 1, wanting to do this kind of thing, and how cool it would be to get to play those two characters together.
Yeah.
I mean, once you kind of, I can't remember which the first game was, where Clank, you would play him independently. I mean,
right.
That must have been the spark of the kernel. Like, ooh, we could expand this into something.
Yeah.
So, TJ, I'm going to throw this to you. Ratchet and Clank, and to some extent, Captain Quark working together. Yeah, that makes sense. But no, we also have Dr. Nefarious, and I know that you're working on the story, and this is a game with quite a bit of story. If you wouldn't mind setting the stage for how all four of them suddenly have to work in concert with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game is basically about, it takes place after the events of A Crack in Time, of course, and Ratchet and Clank are they're sort of out of the hero business, and Quark has found himself as Galactic President because, of course, he's got to fail upwards. And Dr. Nefarious, who survived the events of A Crack in Time, basically throws into action this plot to kill Quark. And right when the plan goes horribly, horribly wrong, they get kidnapped by a giant, seemingly autonomous drone that we're calling the Creature Collector, that basically scoops them up and takes them to an alien planet far away where they're basically forced to work together. So Dr. Nefarious is in no way friends with Quark, Ratchet, or Clank. He is forced basically to work with him in order to survive. But it lends itself to a lot of fun comedy for us because there are these four characters that really should not be friends at all, but now they have to work together and fight their way through this alien planet.
I guess for those who are loyal, I just finished Crack in Time. I mean, how do you sort of resurrect Dr. Nefarious for the second time after? He really looked like he wasn't coming back after that game.
Yeah, I know. And, well, thankfully that was sort of built in for us because Dr. Nefarious and Lawrence always had teleportation technology, and we knew about halfway through the game that there was no way we could kill the most beloved villain in our series. So, for the fans that actually stayed through the credits, we definitely hinted at it by having a radio broadcast that suggested that he was never found. The events in the comic book, we talked about how he's been alive and sort of what he's been doing. So it ended up working out for us.
Okay, let's talk about the comic book. I believe the first one is coming out next week or very, very soon.
Yeah, I think it's September 8th.
And who's working on it? I assume you're involved in the writing somehow.
Yeah, I'm writing it for DC Wildstorm. Adam Archer, who's a new artist, he's writing. He's doing all the artwork for it. It's phenomenal. It's sort of a different style than we have artistically in the past, but he did a phenomenal job of bringing his humor into the art. So we're very excited about it. It's going to be 6 issues. We'll see what happens.
Is it just going to fill in the gaps from the end of Crack in Time to the beginning of All for One?
It takes place a little bit after a Crack in Time and sort of bridges into All for One, but I wanted it to be independent so that the player didn't have to play the game in order to understand what's going on. Like it could bring in new fans that maybe aren't as exposed to Ratchet and Clank before. So it'll definitely pay off the fans that play both Crack in Time and All for One, but it's not something that is required reading.
You're also going in some new territory with the narrative. Ratchet's caught up in a love triangle.
I don't know if I'd call it I don't know if I'd call it I'll call it a love triangle because our fans have always been asking us, where is Sasha, where is Talwin, what's going on with these characters. So there was no way, if given the opportunity to bring them in, that I couldn't do it. So you're going to get to see what's going on with a lot of fan favorites, and Sasha and Talwin will both be in the comic book.
What's it like sort of writing for a much different medium than writing for games? But using the same characters.
Yeah, it's really different, and it was sort of like retraining myself for the panel by panel format because we've been used to manipulating things like timing and execution for all our jokes. Like in RCF2 in A Crack in Time, we have Quark's infamous "You Win Again" technology line, which is the line that will haunt me forever. And we scrubbed back and forth through that scene for weeks and weeks before we got the timing right, before we got the delivery right. You just can't do that in a comic book. Of course, you only get like one shot at it. So that was the big difference in the writing style. So the humor's different, but it's still there. It's still got the same campy, fun Saturday morning cartoon sensibilities as the rest of the stuff.
And I would have to imagine that writing for All for One, you have all the four of these characters. In theory, like they can be on screen all at the same time. They don't really all care for one another. That I guess would be a blast, especially just for like the ambient dialogue while you're playing the game.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. One of the most fun things for me to do in A Crack in Time was write dialogue for Quark that would just trigger in gameplay depending on what you would do, and it makes the characters feel alive. And having all four characters, especially with Quark and Nefarious, who have been nemesis for so long, to have them just kind of bicker back and forth in gameplay, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun, that comedy for me to work with.
Well, I think we've tempted a lot of people. James, are you ready?
Yeah, I think, and
just
just to set this up too, this is the cover for issue 4, which we haven't shown yet, and two of the artists in North Carolina who kind of were the key character artists behind Ratchet and Clank have been doing the covers for the comic series, and this is one of the great pieces from Dave Gurton and Greg Baldwin, and really, really excited how those are coming out, and call your local comic store to get the comics. They should be starting to come out next week.
All right.
So you guys want to see the game? Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I have no...
And a quick shout out to our producer at Sony Computer Entertainment America, Greg Phillips, who is sitting here in the front row and will be playing the role of Dr. Nefarious today during our demo.
Don't read anything into that.
Dibs on Quark.
So I guess as we're getting into this, where are we in the game? And once again, to point out, this game has a very strong narrative that TJ, you're... Good?
Mm-hmm.
not bother? Maybe I could sit here.
Yeah.
You think it's me?
Why don't I just sit here? We play circus music.
Yeah, right. Please stand by.
All right, after all that drama, TJ, where is this falling in terms of, where is it in the game?
Oh, which level are we playing? The nest. Okay. Okay, so Ratchet and Clank have been dropped into this this factory on some alien planet that it's very unusual. This planet has had this giant drone called the Creature Collector that's just been picking up these giant monsters from around the universe and transporting them to planet Magnus. And we don't know why or what the plan is, but we know that we're lost on this alien planet, and our gang has to basically come together in order to survive.
Shall we, gents?
Armin Shimmerman, who plays Nefarious, has again thrashed his voice, bringing his voice to the character.
So we're seeing some stuff here that's quite familiar. Obviously, it creates with both of them. But the rings underneath the characters, is that just health? What's the role of that?
Yeah, let me talk about that a little bit. So the rings are first health, so you can locate your character on screen. But yeah, also their health. I mean, we're showing how many health each individual character has.
And let's just point out the obvious.
Yeah.
There's a little more intimate than I've seen Quark and Nefarious in any of the games.
Well, I think Nefarious isn't particularly happy right at this minute. He's probably wishing he wasn't there.
But it seems to be an example of something that is very cooperative, where you're having to work together to accomplish something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can work together. Like, I can throw Clank across, and then I can use my hook shot to join him. But you don't always know who your friends are. That's the thing about this game.
Ready to suck.
So griefing is possible, and since you're making the game, it seems kind of encouraged here.
I don't want to say encourage. I mean, we definitely incentivize co-op. At the same time, there's definitely a little bit of playful antagonism along with the game, and we know that people are going to compete a little bit, and that's the way we play. So maybe it is sort of encouraged.
So that is only the player that kind of smashes the crate the one who's getting the bolt? So there are resources that you are kind of squabbling over in the course of the game?
That's absolutely right. There are some things that are limited. Bolts are some of them. So you want to be the guy to get the most bolts. You want to be the guy to get the best stuff. And there are other resources in the game that are even rarer than that. And if you see these things, you're going to do whatever it takes to get to that, no doubt about it.
And it looks like that the level design, that we're seeing something that still is very reminiscent of a single-player Ratchet game.
Yeah, I mean, that's important to us. We want to keep the core tone of the series intact, and we want to keep the art direction that's worked well for us intact as well.
So are you guys working together with weapons you already have, or?
Yeah, that's right. We just grabbed a weapon. Just for this demo, it's presented as a pickup, and that's the thing about Ratchet and Clank All for One. It really is about weapons that you can use together with the team. So every weapon has an individual function that you can use by yourself, but you get the really cool, devastating stuff when you work together with the rest of the team.
Now, when you're playing the game, would that sequence there be you only want to use that one particular weapon, or could you get creative?
Oh, you could.
How do you do this thing again?
Sorry. There's an element of trust involved here. We don't always trust each other. You think that for a public demo, we could trust each other?
Not at all.
So this is public? Yeah. So
This is the first time we've shown this game to
Just
the
this
public.
screen. So I assume that also there is something unique depending on which character you're playing in the game. Does Quark have a unique ability? Does Ratchet?
Yeah, everybody's got special abilities, and everybody's got a different kind of melee attack for sure. Ratchet's got his Omni Wrench, just like you'd expect.
Right.
Clank uses Clank Fu. Quark uses his Fists of Justice, and Dr. Nefarious uses his Annihilator Blades.